Welcome back. I'm Ezra Levan in Calgary today. Trinity Western University's School of Law has been hit with more discrimination. Members of the Law Society of British Columbia have voted in favor of reversing an earlier decision to accredit Trinity Western graduates. BC's lawyers object to the school's practice of having students voluntarily sign a personal conduct pledge. That pledge restricts sex to traditional marriage between a man and a woman. 74% of the Law Society's members, the lawyers of the province, voted in favor of blacklisting the Christian school. Earl Phillips is the executive director of Trinity Western School of Law. He joins us now from Vancouver. Hello and welcome to the show. What do you make of this? The BC Law Society was one of the first to approve Trinity Western. They were following the guidance by the Supreme Court of Canada that a dozen years ago ruled that the teacher's profession could not discriminate against Trinity Western for its Christian beliefs. Are you surprised that the Law Society has reversed course, discriminated against your school, and in my opinion, broken the law?
Well, I'm certainly disappointed. In April, the benchers, which is the elected leaders of the Law Society of British Columbia, made a very principled decision, and I was very proud of that decision because they stood on the side of the rule of law. And now they have decided to follow a popular vote among all their members, and that's very disappointing.
What are you going to do now? I mean, if your own home province will not acknowledge the legal right of your well-trained lawyers, I mean, the school's going to open, you're going to follow, you're going to teach law just as it's taught everywhere else. The only reason they're blackballing your students in advance, without even meeting them, is that they personally choose to adhere to a Christian set of values. Those values may not be for everyone, but they're for these Christian students. What are you going to do about it?
Well, first of all, let's remember that we do have approval through the Federation of Law Societies of Canada. And Trinity Western was the first new proposed law school to go through this whole national process that had been agreed to by all the individual law societies. And several provinces have agreed to follow that recommendation. So we do have that accreditation. We've been through that process, and Trinity Western has been accepted even after a very special and specific look at the whole issue around the community covenant. So we do have that.
So are you saying that this BC vote doesn't count, that your lawyers, your young lawyer graduates will be able to practice in the face of this vote? Is that what you're trying to say?
The BC decision is important. It's our home jurisdiction. It's very disappointing not to have that. But we do have approval in other provinces. And one of the ironies or inconsistencies of the situation is that a graduate from our school at the current state of affairs could go to Alberta, complete the requirements for call to the bar in Alberta, and then they would have to be accepted back in British Columbia. So this is the patchwork we're trying to deal with, and it's a challenge. But we're going to have to look at all of our options here and consider what to do specifically about BC accreditation.
So you've not decided to sue yet? You've not decided to appeal this to the courts as your university appealed the teaching blacklisting a dozen years ago? You're still in decisions on this?
We're still having to think through all the options, but certainly litigation is an important option to be considered, and it's a real problem.
I have to tell you, I am deeply disappointed and frankly a little bit grossed out by the lawyers of BC. When it was just a small rump, I could say, oh, that's an extremist bunch of radicals. They don't speak for all lawyers. But when thousands of lawyers vote to blacklist Christians, they would never for a second think of blacklisting Muslim lawyers. And there are plenty of Muslim lawyers or Jewish lawyers. There's a disproportionate number of Jewish lawyers. Only Christian lawyers. Is it fair game for this kind of religious discrimination? I have to tell you, my esteem for the legal profession itself has fallen. They're a bunch of bigots, and worse than being bigoted, you know, you can't fix stupid sometimes. But to do this in the face of the Supreme Court of Canada ruling that was, if I recall, 8-1 a dozen years ago for Trinity Western, these aren't just stupid bigots. These are law-breaking bigots who don't give a damn what the Supreme Court said. Is my analysis unfair? Am I being unfair? Or are these just the last gasp of religious discrimination in British Columbia?
Well, I wouldn't follow your characterization of it, Ezra. I have to look back. The benchers made a very careful decision. They had hundreds of submissions before them. They sought legal opinions. They did their own research. They gathered facts about Trinity Western, and they made a very good principled decision. It's very disappointing that the matter goes to a popular vote, because the reality is the thousands of lawyers who did choose to vote on this, most of them did not spend much, if any, time reviewing all the issues and the
like I say, ignorant bigots. Like I say, to be a member of the Law Society of British Columbia today is to be affiliated with a group whose members, in an open vote, choose bigotry. The Law Society of British Columbia is a group of bigots. I don't say this casually. I say this after a vote. And you're making excuses for them. You're saying, oh, they didn't do their homework. They didn't look at both sides. Yeah, like I say, ignorant bigots. Are you actually standing up for the Law Society? I think you got to sue them and denormalize them. They're trying to drive you out of the public square. Are you going to fight back?
We are going to stay in the public square, and we will fight back in any number of ways, and that may include litigation. We have to keep the conversation going. We have to patiently but persistently talk about where does a Trinity Western School of Law fit in what we think is supposed to be a free, democratic, and pluralist society. It's messy business to do that, but we've got to keep that conversation going. We have to get the thousands who have voted against us to begin to think seriously about what kind of society we want to have in Canada.
Oh, I think they've thought very clearly about that, and they want Christians driven out of the public square. It is so clear that law and courts is the place where many of our crucial social decisions are being made, not in the democratic parliament, but in a small chamber of a court. And that is exactly why they want to keep Christian morality out. They have a good thing going, and they don't want to let you in the club. Listen, it's a pleasure having you on the show. I understand it's your job to be, you know, professional and represent the face of the university modestly and moderately, but I think it's time that people who love freedom of religion and love Christians' right to be Christian fought back hard. Thanks for being with us today.